Drive Time with me, Fiona Stalker. Now, this is a story we touched on in the last hour, but Just Stop Oil is threatening to disrupt this weekend's London Pride event over its headline sponsor, United Airlines. They've also requested clarity on where Pride sources its money from and that organisers make a statement to demand an end to new oil and gas projects. Well, joining me now is Peter Tatchell, human rights and LGBTQ activist, and Ewan McLeod, who is from Mardi Gras, Executive Director of Mardi Gras, Glasgows Pride Mardi Gras. Sorry, my screen jumped a bit there. Peter, just tell us your thoughts on this.
Well, of course, we know that Pride needs to be funded. It's a huge mega event. But I would say that we need to be very careful about who Pride accepts funding from. I think Pride needs to have ethical funding. So it shouldn't be getting funding from organisations that promote and benefit from climate destruction. This is an issue that affects us all. I'm sure you've all seen the Glasgow flood map. It suggests that unless we take serious urgent action, large parts of Glasgow will disappear under rising sea levels. The Clyde will rise in its levels, and that will, for example, completely flood and obliterate Glasgow Airport and hundreds of thousands of homes and jobs across Glasgow as well. So this is an imperative, urgent issue that needs to be addressed. I think Pride organisers need to stand on the side of preventing that disaster by ensuring they do not work with corporations that aid or abet climate destruction.
Ewan McLeod, sorry I got the name mixed up, it's Director of Glasgow's Pride and Mardi Gras. What's your thoughts on this? Are Just Stop Oil right to target Pride?
Well, good evening, Fiona, and thank you very much for having me on. Absolutely. Just Stop Oil are right in what they're saying because we do have a climate emergency and we do have to take action. Now, the reality is they are never going to try and disrupt Pride tomorrow. And I'll tell you why. Because right now, across the United Kingdom, and especially in Scotland alone, we have seen a doubling of hate crimes against people due to their sexuality in the past decade. So Just Stop Oil will never do that because they know the importance of standing with their LGBT plus communities and friends. However, they've had a great victory today over the past few days is just by putting this out. We're talking about it right now on national radio. So they've won in many ways.
Well, Ewan, I did speak to them earlier, and we might have a clip we can play. I did speak to someone from their organisation a bit earlier who said that absolutely they would be disrupting Pride if they don't meet their demands. We've had quite a lot of feedback. Peter, we've had quite a lot of feedback from people on social media from the LGBTQ community who are urging them not to, saying that they feel already under attack and actually they would feel that the disruption would be, would kind of add to that feeling they're under attack. What do you feel? How do you react to those who feel very uncomfortable about Just Stop Oil targeting Pride?
Well, of course, we have to recognise that unless we have a planet or a country on which to practice LGBT plus rights, Pride is redundant. Pride has no meaning if we haven't got a safe, secure country in which to live as LGBT plus people. So I don't think it's either or, it's both. And I think that Just Stop Oil have made a very reasonable request, which is for Pride in London, as Ewan has just done, to speak out against fossil fuels and climate destruction and to meet with them. Now, I think that's pretty reasonable. I think it's, if I was in charge of Pride in London, and I am a patron, but I don't have the power, if I was in charge of Pride in London, I would definitely meet with Just Stop Oil, and I would make a statement criticising fossil fuels and climate destruction. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to do.
Ewan, how much is funding an issue for festivals? I did speak to someone earlier who was involved in a Pride festival who said to me the words, "Don't bite the hand that feeds you." How do you feel about the funding?
Well, clearly, national, regional and local government does not give enough money to Prides. In fact, in Glasgow, we receive not one penny from the City Council or the Scottish Government, and we're the largest Pride event in Scotland. So yes, of course, we do have to fundraise to pay our costs, and we do have to work with corporate partners. However, there is a way of doing it, and certainly in Glasgow and Scotland, we look very closely at who we're going to be working with. and we do knock people back. Even though we desperately need that money to promote our communities, we do say no to some people. However, in London's defence, I know my dear late friend Kenny Donnelly. He was the manager for Continental United for Scotland, the North of England, and Ireland. And I spoke at length with him before his death, tragically, about what United were doing for equality. So, in terms of equality, United is a wonderful partner to have. Yes, of course, we've got a climate emergency. We have to take that into account. But for instance, we can all do small things to change the environment, and we have to. But if we start saying, let's shut down equality movements because a few people are unhappy with it, then the public turn against us. And without the public support, we'll never change anything. And this climate emergency will happen even faster.
Peter, we did get a statement from Pride London. They say we call on all individuals, groups and organisations to give this space the respect and focus it deserves in an increasing hostile and unsafe world. They say that they would welcome dialogue with Just Stop Oil after the event and wish everyone a safe and happy Pride. Do you understand perhaps why some people getting in touch do feel uncomfortable about Pride being disrupted or targeted, if you like?
Well, LGBT plus people are not above criticism. And that includes me. I defend the right of people to criticise me, to criticise the LGBT plus movement. That is part and parcel of being in a free and democratic society. So is the right to protest. Even if I disagree with Just Stop Oil, I would defend their right to protest, of course, peacefully and non-violently, as they always do. I just don't think we can say, just because we're oppressed, we don't have to care about anything else. I think we need to care about the climate emergency. We need to recognise that LGBT plus people are going to be affected by it, like along with everybody else, and we need to do something. And I think Pride's statement is disappointing, because they could have easily said, we support action against climate destruction. We want to see a transition away from fossil fuels. We will be reviewing our sponsors and seeking to have ethical sponsorship of Pride events. Now, why didn't they say that? I think that would have been an easy solution.
Ewan, you mentioned that there was an increase in hate crime. Do you think that there is more abuse directed against the LGBTQ community?
Absolutely. What we've seen over the past few years has been horrendous. People like Peter stood so successfully to try and get some semblance of equal rights. But these have been dialed back, and it's happening at an alarming rate. I've never seen it so bad, but I'm hearing reports continually and people being assaulted in nights out in Edinburgh, London, Belfast, and indeed Glasgow. So we really have to do something to change the public's opinion and minds, and that's by winning allies. And the only way we can win allies is by speaking to the average person in the street and trying to explain why they're wrong. So if we suddenly start shutting down our biggest shop window of the year to support Just Stop Oil, which is a great cause, then it's counterproductive because the public not only turn against Just Stop Oil, they turn against the LGBT plus communities. So it's a really big issue. And I've been out today, Compton Street with some of my team, and we've been speaking to ordinary LGBT plus Londoners, and they are very, very angry actually about this threat from Just Stop Oil, and they're saying this is their day, their special day, and this group is trying to disrupt it, and they are angry. There's real anger in the streets of London today.
Peter, what do you think of that?
Well, first of all, Just Stop Oil is not going to stop Pride in London taking place. They will presumably do a protest. It will delay things and disrupt things for a period, but it isn't going to stop Pride taking place. We have to acknowledge that we live in a democracy, and in a democracy, people have a right to protest, even if we disagree with them. So on many occasions, much as I have disagreed with Christian fundamentalist street preachers, provided they don't threaten or menace the LGBT plus community, I've defended their right to express their point of view while strongly disagreeing with what they're saying. This is all about live and let live in a free society. Freedom of expression and the right to protest is fundamental, and that applies to Just Stop Oil just as much as it has historically applied to the LGBT plus community. We protested way back, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. We were condemned for disrupting events, for stopping the traffic and so on. But, we had to do it because We had to raise awareness about the scale of discrimination we faced in law. We had to raise awareness about hate crime and so on. And so, if protest was good enough for us in the past, it should be good enough for Just Stop Oil as well today.
OK, well, thank you to both of you for a very civil and considered discussion. Peter Tatchell, human rights activist, and Hugh MacLeod from Glasgow's Pride.